I'm wired to think that I have to earn everything. I'm wired to think that God has a metric of those he loves and those that are special human beings and those that are his favorite children. And so sometimes when I make mistakes, I still struggle with guilt and shame and still say, does God truly love me? Am I really loved being? So for me, it's a daily battle actually. I have to constantly go back to 2020 to remind myself what God told me about being loved unconditionally. But I would say that above all, it was God coming to me directly, no human being, nobody in between us, no pastor. I got the pastor face, but there was a face where God came to, just like when Elijah was running from Jezebel. God didn't send the angels. God went himself to meet him where he was because this dude was depressed. So God actually came to meet me directly by himself.
Well, welcome to the rebirth of the All Things Then podcast. And, I'm so delighted to be back and for the podcast to be back as well. And I'll be your host today. My name is Akintunde and Ade, for many of you who are aware. And, I'm the host of the All Things Then podcast. The All Things Then podcast is primarily a platform where we get to discuss topical issues, get to learn the current perspectives about life and understand, what the truth is, in the world where we have your truth, my truth, a lot of confusing perspectives. The All Things Thing podcast stands as a platform that creates an opportunity where speakers and learners get to interact together. And I really hope that today's session is going to leave you wowed and that you're going to learn a lot because I hope to learn a lot as well. Um, so, well, as we have on the screen, I have a guest of mine, a friend, and somebody I met while I was at my university in Nigeria. And her name is Adetola Obioma. Adetola, would you like to say a little bit about yourself?
Nice to have you, Akin. Really, really nice to have you. Yeah, it's been a long time, a very long time, and it's a privilege to be here at All Things Ten podcast having this conversation. And well, what about me? You can just call me Ade. I like being called Ade. And instead of going on to the whole qualification stuff, just a touch Vera is okay for me. Ade, I'm a touch Vera, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that short introduction. Okay, so today, as you must have seen from all the publicity, right, our title is Beyond the Mask. So we're doing a series called Beyond the Mask. And, when you think about a mask is really meant to like, cover or, serve as a pretense element where you can't really see the ideal person behind, something. And so today we are actually going to be unveiling the mask of Adetola, right? And people who have similar stories, right? So, first off, Adetola, I would just like to ask you, why do you think our listeners today should stick around and listen to today's podcast?
Okay. Thank you, Akin, for that. The thing is, we have a lot of information going around without meaning. We There's so much information and there's so much podcast there out there. Everybody just having podcast, and you sometimes just stumble into, okay, which one should I? You struggle. Which one should I join? Which one should I not join? But for today's podcast, we'll be talking about something you've not heard before when it comes to identity, when it comes to how we relate to the world. I've listened to a lot of podcast sessions, and one of the things that I've realized is that we see a lot of things on the surface, not going to the root of things. And today promises to be immersed, promises to be. I'm going to be very vulnerable. I'm going to pull off all my masks today. And I feel like it's in the place of being vulnerable, not just sharing our strengths, that we actually bond. So if you want to bond, if you want to listen to somebody who's probably on your part, and you want to talk about different shades of you, different sides of you that nobody has seen before, or you want to listen to someone reveal themselves, this is the best place for you to be. And it will be nice for you to stick with us today because I'll be, let me not say not physically naked, all naked.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I mean, I personally look forward to learning even more than what I already know about you. Right. So, today we're talking about beyond the mask. And as I had interacted with you, behind the scene, we had, had conversations about identity.
Yes.
So, as you're aware, online today we have a lot of people talking about, well, I identify as a goat. I identify as a female, a male identifying as a female identifying as a male. You have a lot of people who do not believe that like what they stand as is exactly what it represents. And so that bets the question in my mind. If I were to ask you, do you think identities are given to people, or do you think identities are created?
Mm, mm. That's such a controversial question. Okay. You want to shatter some tables. You want to break. You want my fans to come and say, Atola, I won't follow you again, because you no longer believe I can identify as Dangote and I can
Hmm.
identify as whatever I want to identify as. Um, this is what I will say when it comes to identity. It's beyond gender, it's beyond the sexuality when it comes to identity. I was having a conversation with my friend, and due to my own exposure, there was a time that I I thought what I call myself is what my identity is about. But then I realized that there's a level of first awareness where you realize you're a human being. Then there's a
Hmm.
second level where you call yourself a female, male gender, but there's the real identity that has nothing to do with gender. The real one that has nothing to do with what you identify as, but basically the authentic self that God created, that is not, would I say, genderless, that has everything to do with your spirit, your being. So that is what I call identity when it comes to uh, defining yourself. Because when you put a label to me, when you put a label to things and say I identify as this, I identify that, that's limited. So that's a physical, earthly identity situation. But I'm talking about the spiritual identity, the one, the original one, the authentic one. That is the one that I pay more concern to, pay more attention to rather.
Thank you so much. And just a way of, because I will pretend today that I don't know anything, and that gives you an opportunity to open my mind up, to want to learn from the scratch. And I might
Okay.
ask some questions that might maybe sound very beginnerish, right? Or
Mm.
sound very, very childish, so to say. But it's
This is
just a way to.
now you're putting me on hot seat. We've not even started.
No, 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 no. No, you're grand. You're totally fine. It's just a way of like just learning about everything. So if I were to understand your answer, you said identity is has three layers, right?
Yeah.
And I got two layers from what you said. But I'm not really sure I understand the third layer, but I got that
Yeah.
there's a physical layer of like your gender identity, how you identify as a male or a female, or whatever we have out there. And then there's the other layer, which is a spiritual element, which is we all have spirits within us, and that's the spirit that was created. Did I get that correctly? And if you could also identify what
Yes.
the third, part is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. No, I think yes. I think we've missed a point at some point. There's a first layer where you come to earth and say I'm a human being. You realize that maybe H510 I'm a human being. Then there's a second layer that talks about my likes, my dislikes, the things that I like to do, my temperament. I'm choleric. I'm sanguine. I'm phlegmatic. That's the second. That's still That's close, but that's still the middle. That's still not your identity. A lot of people is Taurus, my zodiac sign is Cancer. That's how we act. That's still in the middle part. Then the last one, which a lot of us don't get to because we are stuck with these identifiers that we are stuck with having arguments about gender, about sexuality, which is not the real definition of our identity. Then we move to the third one, the one who is made in the image of God, the one that has nothing to do with it, really with gender, but has everything to do with essence, power, and possibility. The one that God said and said, you know what, I'm going to make it look like me. We don't pay attention to that. And for us to be able to reflect in this world where we are, that is the real identity. That is the real conversations we should be having. So, number one, I'm a human being. Number two, I get to the uni, I start making friends. I realize like I have a friend of mine who doesn't put salt in her egg. She's cooked it for me today and it was really nice. I enjoyed it. Oh, I don't like salt in my egg. I like to wear joggers. I like to look like this. That's still not the major place to define ourselves. We're still defining ourselves by feelings in that place. But there's the highest form of definition of who we are, which is our spiritual essence, which is the one who is made in the image of God, which has no conversation with gender. The only conversation you have in that place is the conversation of essence, the conversation of power. He said, do you not know? The Bible said, do you not know that ye are gods? That is that is the real definition, ye are gods. That is where our identity is really from. Not what I like or what I don't like, or I'm just a human being, just having spiritual experiences once in a while. But when you really want to understand identity, you come from the angle. The third one, which is about essence and power.
Hmm. This is becoming much more
Yeah.
interesting. A
Okay.
quick question. Who gave us this
Okay.
identity?
All right. Not undermining, not over, how will I put it? I know there's been a lot of theories about how we became to, the image of God, and people have called God several names. I'm not really particular about names because that I name you, that I know your name as Hakim, doesn't mean I know all about you. I could that's why I said that the gender, whether I'm this and that, is not even the question. It's about knowing your spiritual essence. Um, so I'm trying to be, will I say, politically correct at the same time, standing in my own truth. So if there's anybody out there who believes that we evolve from ape, please, this is not to attack you. This is my own theory. And I believe that inside of us, we all know that there is a higher being that actually gave us this identity. There's a higher being we yearn to talk to. Forget this human body. There's this yearning we want to talk to someone. There's this yearning we can hear someone talking to us. A lot of times you're talking and people are saying, "Oh, that spirit told me. That thing told me to not do that thing yesterday." I believe it is that one, that spirit, that person that we cannot put a name to for real. That even while you're just walking on your laptop, it says, "Oh, press this, don't press that." That nameless, formless being that keeps guiding us in our paths, that we keep saying, "Oh, this thing has happened before. Oh, I dreamt about this thing." The one that gives us dream. We don't know where dream came from. The one that gives us sun, the moon, the night, the day, the years, the way we look like. It's formless. We can't begin to define that being. But I can say, if you ask me, I will say a costless being, a being that was never formed, is a being that is not limited by time and space, a being that is creative. I can define him, but I can't put a name and say, yes, this is him. Is that encompassing when we look at our lives?
Thank you so much. Let's move slightly into how identity impacts upon, every other projections of our lives. There's a certain word called destiny, right? There's another word called fulfillment. There's another word called purpose. And in some sort of trajectory, we see that all of these three elements, they tie together into who you are, who you see yourself as, who you say you are, what you identify as. do you really think, identity itself, as you have explained, as a three-layer element, do you really think it ties into our destiny? In other words, the destination we have been sent into, because I believe primarily every one of us have an assignment and something that we have been sent to do. Does does it have any
Ooh,
relationship with
yes,
that
it does.
in
It
any
does.
way?
Okay, it does. The thing is, it pains sometimes when some of us come here, we come to heart, and when we stay at the level of the ordinary awareness, which is I'm a human being, we think that is where we derive identity from. Just come to earth, get a job, morning, night, go to school, look for how to survive as a human being, and that's it. We think that's all. And that's why some of us are not able to reach our highest form, our highest potential, because we stay at the ordinary definition of the body. We define ourselves by the body, we define
Hmm.
ourselves by where I live, my degree, my education. Those things are physical definition. So when we stay there, we coast. That's how we do all our lives. Then there's a second one, which is the part of my temperament. We want to fulfill destiny from that part too. From gender, I identify as a goat, I identify as this. Mind you, I'm not, like I said, I believe that everybody's feeling is whatever you feel is true to you. It doesn't mean that I have to buy into your theory, but whatever you feel is true, and I am not undermining your feelings. But I hope you hear me out if you're listening to us this afternoon. So we can that's the second level is to define ourselves by my temperament, the way I like to talk, the way I like to dress. This part of me defines my identity. We're still missing it on that level. But you see the third level, this one that I'm so particular about, being the image of God, is so important to our destiny. And the gap between where we are and where we want to be and to fulfill the desires and our destiny or to be able to stand in our calling is not to know myself as a human being and just this body, is not to know myself as my temperamental display and identify as a female, I identify as this. That's still a low level of identification of who you are. And it can never, never actually bring you to the place of destiny. But where you derive power, whatever you identify as, if you come back to that place and say, I identify as God, now you're speaking. When you come back to that place and say, I am, the Bible said, if Christ be in you, so ye are Christ. The essence of Jesus Christ is to come and tell us our own possibilities. I was asking, my niece was asking me the other day, and she was asking Adetola, why was Jesus Christ killed? And I actually wanted to go into the whole Trinity stuff. And I said, they killed him because they said he's God. They killed him because he identified as God. And Jesus Christ literally said, do you not know that ye are gods? So for us to be able to fulfill our destiny, we need to come back to that original definition of who we are, which is the image of God, identifying as God, as identifying as his image constantly. Than God, he created me in his image. So I am him. Now, when you stand in that place, when you stand in that definition, you will not relate with the world in fear. You will not relate with the world in limitation. You will not relate in the world in the place of being disempowered. And when you can relate, when you stop relating to the world from that angle, and you start relating to the world from somebody who knows he is God, he is a replica of God, then you can fulfill destiny. Then clarity comes. But until then, until we tie ourselves. And that's why you see a lot of us just going to work, go to sleep, go to work, come back, read the book, go to work, go to sleep, come back. And we're exhausted. We're living the life. You can see Akintunde is really living the life. I don't even have an headset. We are all living the life, but we are not happy. because we are not identifying. We are thinking, oh, maybe, we are conscious of demons more than angels. We think we are small and we are just this human body. And that is why we are not being able to fulfill destiny. So you don't tie yourself to dear gods. Whatever you think you fulfill on earth, on the other side, you realize that you didn't even tap into anything.
That's quite powerful. That's really powerful. Adetola, let's take a second and you know um, draw some lessons and some inspiration from your personal story.
Okay.
Um, I've had interactions with you several times, and I know a subset of what your journey is like, and I find it to be very intriguing because that was the first time I ever heard someone say something like that, and also share how they moved from a particular identity into another identity. And I think it would really be great for people to first of all understand what your story is, and then we can ask questions about how you got to journey from point A down to point C.
Okay.
So do you want to tell us about how you came about, like some of the identity crisis yourself as a person you've gone through?
Okay. Okay. Akin has made it a point of view to shake table today. It's all right. Can do that. Okay. Okay. All right. My journey has been a progressive one, and I can say that some of the things that I subscribe to, even as at last month, I no longer subscribe to them. That's how progressive my journey has been. So I'm going to center it on the three layers that I have talked about just now. And I hope that in sharing my journey, I just want to put a disclaimer out there. My journey doesn't necessarily have to be your journey, and my path doesn't have to necessarily be your path. And wherever you are, however you are, it's fine. It's okay. This is not a conversation to make you feel little, to make your feelings feel invalidated, to make you feel like you're a minority. I honestly don't believe that anybody created by God is not special. I feel like if God looked at all of us and said, we need you and created you, you are special to him. You may not be special to me. Can everyone, okay, am I still with you? Okay.
Yes. Yes, I can hear you
I
clearly.
may not be special. You may not be special to me. I may not be special to you. And that's okay. But you are special to God. And if you're special to God, it is common sense for all of us that you're special to us. So whatever I'm going to say, please do not take it, do not be judgment into it. So let me go to Akin. Let me not beat around the bush too much. Let me go to Akin's question about my journey. Okay, I went from in summary, I went from someone who identified herself based on her environment. I thought that I was defined by coming from the kind of background that I came from. You know, some of us don't even identify as lesbians or gay, but we identify as poor. We identify as poor people. We identify as less privileged. We identify as people who don't really have advantage in life. We identify as people who are not lucky. You talk to some people sometimes and they tell you, well, I've never been very lucky. I've never been a very lucky person in my life. That's identifying the wrong way also. So from my age 10 till now, I've identified as different things. I've identified as unlucky, as identified as being somebody who will be hated a lot, sexuality wise. I've identified as different things. I've identified as a depressed human being. I've identified as someone who will never get ahead in life. I've identified as a financial struggler. I've identified as various things, even getting into adulting. But in my path has always been different teachers who come to remind me that I am not my circumstances, Whatever I may experience on earth is not my definition. So I came from somebody who identified as unlucky gay person, I'm tired, to someone who now identify, who got to a stage where she identifies that, oh, I'm loved. Maybe I'm loved. Maybe God likes me as I am, and God is not trying to, and maybe God wants to do something with me. I started with God's love. God loves me, regardless of whatever I am. God loves me. Then I graduated from that to understand. I think I will not even say graduated. I would say the highest form of understanding that I ever had that has helped me so far is understanding that I am loved. Because I wear a lot of masks. And that's the honest truth. People try to act like they are not wearing any mask at all. When I'm writing my CV, I am totally honest. When people I don't want to know, I don't want you to know my challenges, and you ask me, I'm fine. Am I fine? I say, I'm totally honest, and I pour out my challenges to you. It's a lie. I don't. So I'm wearing a mask, depending on the person having conversation with me. But what has helped me so far, and that is one thing I want everybody to, because what we are having here today is not what ought to be, but what is, which is the reality, is that at some point in your life you wear a mask out of fear, out of not, you don't want to be you don't want to be, you want to be heard, you want to be listened to, you pretend to like people, some of us even pretend to like our bosses. Let's be honest here. You pretend to like your boss. There's a lot of things going on that the physical space may not allow you to come vulnerable and say, this is me, this is my mind, this is how I feel. But what has helped me so far it's what has just gotten better for me is there are some masks I no longer find necessary to wear anymore. But throughout this journey of life, you'll find yourself at some point having to, play the good girl role just for some things, because you need to position yourself, like they say in LinkedIn, position yourself and all of those things. But what you want to remember is that you are loved. You are always loved. And because of knowing that I am loved has actually helped me to reveal more of how I should act, how I should think of myself, how the habits I should stop, the habits that are not serving me. So that's like the summary of my journey. I don't want to go into personal details, because when I go into that, you may not be able to get the main thing which I want you to get, which is whatever face you have, whatever you are even defining yourself as, what really matters as you subscribe to the definition of God about you, you evolve. You evolve. And I'm not going to tell you what is good for you and what is not good for you. I'm just going to say that you evolve if you believe in the love of God in relation to your identity.
Mm. Thank you so much, Adetola. One of the core things I picked from what you just shared is about how like love is the highest level of understanding that you can have in terms of your identity. And it's I'm very curious to know at what point did you, because I'm guessing you've struggled for love for a long time, to be loved, right?
Yes.
Because at the end of everything, part of the void, that every man has is that insatiable hunger for love. And sometimes we tend to want to seek it from other people. And by so doing, we become like people pleasers, because it's until when they affirm us or when they validate us or when they tell us this, then we feel good about ourselves. Other times it's about like you trying to get that sense of belonging, that sense of worth from your partners if you're in a relationship or if you're married. Some people get it from their jobs, but understanding what you're saying about how love is a very, very central element. I want to ask, at what point in time did you find out about the love that really transformed your life, and what sort of love was
Okay.
it? What kind of encounter did you
Thank,
really have that changed
thank
things
you,
for
thank
you?
you, Akin, for that question. Um, I will say a little bit of my background, so to help audiences who may try to understand the toxic relationship I have with love. I came from a background where you don't get those affirmations. When you come from a broken home, you don't really understand. You don't really understand what it is to be a dad. Now, coming from a broken poor home is another conversation again, which means that there is no daddy and mom may not be able to afford 3 square meal. Now, coming from a broken poor home is still a good thing, but coming from a home where you are not assured of shelter, the next month is another thing entirely. So you have to, that's like my story, having to live with aunties, having to live with uncles, having to be a house girl for your aunties and uncles, just so you can have a roof over your head as young as the age of 10. Now that's another situation entirely. Now, so I didn't know what we had to constantly be on the run, on the go. We had to constantly uh, at a young age, I had to start playing the role of a confidence for my mom. I was still young, but there was no husband, there was no daddy, so they are confident. So at a very young age, I was already a therapist. I was already a counselor. So I didn't know what love is, and I had a lot of people cross my boundaries. I was abused consistently by my class teacher at the age of 10. I thought that was love, you know. I had a distorted view of love. So to me, my relationship with love up to some certain points was I had to earn it. If you had to wash your uncles and aunties' clothes before you eat in the morning, then you've learned that you must earn love. So I didn't know any other way to have friends and have people in my life than to earn it. So I was always earning love with my friends. I was always looking out for what do I have to do for them to be in my life, because that was what I grew up knowing. And so it was really hard. And sometimes, honestly, sometimes it's still hard because trauma is when you've known something for 20 something years of your life and you get exposed to something. Remember that your former food, you ate it for 20 something years. So you want to take your time and take your
Hmm.
time with yourself. So it is not enough that, oh, this revelation just came. It is actually that revelation came and it has to journey with you. Sometimes almost all the rest of your lives. So I'm still even at the point whereby I remind myself that I don't have to earn love. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. So for me, the turning point, you know, was when it wasn't even well, okay. The first turning point was going to church and hearing about Jesus and hearing about what God has done through Jesus Christ. Then after that, my most profound turning point was in the year 2020 when I realized that even having heard about Jesus, some people still have a toxic relationship with Jesus. Some people still have a toxic relationship with God because you have some teachings where if you don't beg Jesus, he will not do anything. If you don't beg God and you don't pray for 3 days and all of that, God hasn't heard you. And there's a way you must come into God for him to love you. And I was also in that phase where I was now bringing the toxic relationship I had with people and start trying to earn God's love again. Even after knowing that He loved me, but I was trying to earn His love again. So my
Hmm.
breakthrough, major breakthrough, was when I withdrew from all of the teachings that was teaching me that I had to earn God's love. I had to be a certain type of way for God to even take a look at me twice, and I had to step away and I had to say, God, I don't know. I know calling you God even is still not enough definition for who you are. But I know, let me say, I think I called him creator and I said, teach me for real how to relate with myself and relate with the world and how to relate like a love thing. And I think God now allowed me to go through series of weaknesses back to back. And when I was going through those weaknesses and I still go through my weaknesses, so nobody should think I'm fine, I'm signed, sealed, and delivered. No, I still have my weaknesses, but God makes sure that I do, just like Apostle Paul said when he was complaining about his weaknesses. Jesus was like, God was like, whichever one said it, was like, even in all you need is not, you don't need to complain about the weaknesses. All you need is my grace. The weaknesses are there, not bad, but my grace actually supersedes weaknesses. And you will also see this in Romans 5. Yes, where weakness abounds, grace superabounds. So God had to allow me go through a lot of weaknesses in quotes and still enjoy his love in the midst of it for me to realize that I'm loved unconditionally. And it has nothing to do with what I can do. So that was the breakthrough for me. And still, I'm still having daily breakthrough and daily battles and daily losses. That's the honest truth. People won't tell you that. But I still lose some. I still lose some battle with this thing called love because I'm a human being and I've told you my background. I'm wired to think that I have to earn everything. I'm wired to think that God has a metric of those he loves and those that are special human beings and those that are his favorite children. And so sometimes when I make mistakes, I still struggle with guilt and shame and still say, does God truly love me? Am I really loved being? So for me, it's a daily battle actually. I have to constantly go back to 2020 to remind myself what God told me about being loved unconditionally. But I would say that above all, it was God coming to me directly, no human being, nobody in between us, no pastor. I got the pastor face, but there was a face where God came to, just like when Elijah was running from Jezebel. God didn't send the angels. God went himself to meet him where he was because this dude was depressed. So God actually came to meet me directly by himself. And taught me what unconditional love really means. And the Bible said it, as far as the east is from the west, so have I removed your sin from you. He said, David, blessed are those who God will not remember their sin anymore. And God had to constantly teach me and still teaches me that. So that's how my relationship with love has been, and knowing that you can never graduate from it. So I have never graduated. I'm still there. You can't graduate from love. You can't. Love is sounds so stupid and sounds so shallow for we human beings to actually graduate from, but it's actually the real deal.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really a vulnerable story you shared there. And just as a way of following up with what you shared, personally, I've had the opportunity to meet a few people, and I see their level of relationship with God as almost superficial and unreal, right? And I say that because they have brought intimacy with God and interaction with God to a level where they are speaking to a friend that is seated in front of them, and they literally tell him everything. I mean, I have a friend who, like, even if it's about like what to wear, I want to, wear a certain cloth. They go as far as saying, God, I don't know what to wear. Like, do you want to tell me? And it's just a beautiful relationship. Whereas, there are a lot more people outside there who don't really understand that level of, and, sometimes you just be like, oh, well, you're spiritualizing this, you're too spiritual, you're too this and all of that. How did you come to that place of vulnerability? And, if you could just share, how you got to that level where God has, because I see your boldness when you share your story, how you're part of the people who, like, when I see how you talk about God, I'm like, is this the same God that like people in church still like talk about, like, cause, again, having grown up in church myself, for a very long
Okay.
time, I've quite learned by custom that like God is like a figure that is just there, and we need to like earn His mercy and earn His grace and all of those things like that. But again, across the years from learning and interacting, and even recently, God Himself was dealing with me. I'm seeing that level of vulnerability where God Himself comes down to earth in human person. It's just that like you are not seeing like a human formed shape seated in front of you, but you could feel that raw presence. So how did you, as a person, how did you
Okay,
get to
I
that
think it
level?
was series of mess up from my own hand. I think I think the person who created you and I didn't create us to be independent. We were never meant to be independent. And I think from the way we were created, being in our mother's womb for 9 months, nobody could see us. Our mother could not even see us. It is whatever the doctor says. But there was a hand watching over us at that particular moment in the womb. Then we got out, and all of a sudden, our parents said, God, you know what? It's over. Let us take over from here. Then we got into adulting and told our parent and God, we good. We've got this thing figured out. However, I think I was having a conversation. We are going to have the audio version of this, right? Okay, all right.
Yes.
I was having a conversation with my friend and I said, do you know that the journey of adulting is the journey only children can take? And
Hmm.
my friend was like, Tola, I hope you're not in one of those zones. I know you used to do drugs, but you don't do drugs anymore. So yeah, so I could have said it's drugs, but I know that God has you don't do drugs anymore. I said, yeah, because as kids, we depend on, and I will go back to what Jesus said. He said, except you become like these little ones, you can't enter into my kingdom. You can't be like me, except you become like these little ones. Jesus Christ was talking about dependency. And I said, see, as you get into adulting, it's not for you to come and depend on yourself, but go back to the original plan, which is to depend on God within you for everything, for all things, because now God is going to cut your parents off. Fundings are not coming. Now you have to be a child again to your original creator. No parents, no assurance.
Hmm.
The way it was meant to be from day one, the way it started. Now you're going back to him. It's so sweet. I love this illustration because when you came in, you depended on him, for a lot of things. He showed you when to walk. Even your parent couldn't make you walk before the time as a child. Now you're going back to him, you have to still take that same journey you took as a child back to him, which is all along. It was not your parents are just caretakers. All along is being God. Now your caretakers they've been they've been sacked when you come into adulting.
Hmm.
Now no more caretakers, and God is saying, you and I, let's face it one on one. I created you. That's the journey. So it's a journey of even being closer to God. That's the journey of adulting. So for me, it was a lot of assumptions that led me to that point. I don't think anybody comes to depending on God solely until you have assumed competence. And one thing about adulting is that there's this illusion of competence that we have that makes us run the rat race. So for me, it was running a lot of rat
Hmm.
race, a lot of chasing, a lot of assuming that I'm now an adult, now we Africans at this particular age, you should be, you know. And God actually removed the chair under my feet. Let me put it that way, under my sin. And God showed me that I was never in charge. So that place of vulnerability, that place where Apostle Paul was crying about his weaknesses, that place of nowhere, confusion, disastrous confusion actually led me. So I feel like it was the place of God humbling me, just the way God humbled Nebuchadnezzar in the Bible. And all the things we go through as adults in that we call demons is actually God trying to humble you and bring you back home. You know, bring you back.
Hmm.
There's nobody from your father's house. Trust me, nobody really have your time like that. So but but God is trying to say,
Hmm.
I am in charge of you. So for me, it was a journey of brokenness, shattered brokenness, where, and I like my life. I like the fact that I don't have any uncle. I don't have any auntie. I was discussing with my friend and I said, there was a day I was going through something and I said, imagine I just have one uncle somewhere. So for me, not having anybody to depend on, no daddy, no body, no auntie, no uncle, no, I'm not a trust fund baby. All of those things just gave me no choice but to look at my creator.
In all sincerity, um, I've never had this part of your journey, right? And it's so incredible learning about the perception that you have learned over time and how you have been able to journey down to that place of vulnerability with God. And I know it's a continuous journey. We are all learning, we are all
Yeah.
growing, and God will keep drawing us, closer to Him. Now, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people who are perhaps on this, streaming platform, or that are likely to listen to this, and they have like different labels they have been tagged. They have like identities, past identities that are still haunting them. And I know you've gone through that journey as well. Would you want to share one or two pieces of advice about how to break free from
Oh,
labels and past identities that are not, related to what we are?
okay. Hmm. When I'm quiet, don't worry. I'm just trying to make sure that whatever I want to say. So it's not network. Just give me a moment. This session has to be real as realist. So this is my real self, you know, just being here right here. Hmm. Nothing actually. This is what I will say. Nothing has nothing, absolutely nothing can define you. Absolutely nothing has the power to define you. No label. I'm rich, I'm poor. They are they are earthly constraints. Even they are the issue of even rich and poor is an issue of capitalism on its own and has nothing to do with your true essence. No label. Identify as a goat from now to tomorrow. Identify as a female, male, banker, Dangote's daughter, Dangote, whatever you want to identify as, actually have no capacity to be able to define you. Nothing can define you, nothing, nothing at all. So when it comes to label, I would say discard label limits you. What you think you are in the physical realm actually limits you. Being gay is not your truest identity. I am this. In fact, there is nothing, like I said, that can define you. You are simply I am. And how did I arrive at this? Every form of label is here to put you, constrict you, and say, this is the only way that I can act. This is the only way I am. This is all there is to me when you try to define yourself by labels. And labels happen in every sector. We have even labels in the church. We have the people that they call, àwọn ilé wọn pray. Tọ́wọn ilé bá pray lásán báyìí. Sorry, I had to mix my Yoruba. Yoruba is too sweet to not mix. You know? So you cannot define yourselves by those things because your real self is God. And that is why when Moses was asking about definition, Moses said that when Moses was asking God, what should I define you as? God said, I am that I am. There is no name that is enough to define me. Now, the person who made you said, I am made in God's image. I mean, it says you are made in his image. Also, you are I am that I am. You can't be defined. A label cannot define you. Nothing else can define you. Nothing is enough to actually define you. So I would say that do not look at label. It's not enough. If you would define yourself as anything, if you are tempted to define yourself as anything as you journey on this earth, please define yourself as God. Yeah, God, simple as ABC. Now that's your journey on earth will take you through many phases in life. At some point, you'll be poor. I saw that I'm using poor. I like money a lot. I'm an Igbo girl, so money is very important to us. But life will take you through many phases. At some point, you will think you like goods. At some point, you will think you are this, you that. Not a bad idea. I'm not going to question what you have defined yourself as. But if you and I truly want to really say who we are, we are the image of God. And what is God? Power, essence, unlimited, can't be defined. There's no name any religion can give God that will adequately define him. And that's what that person is who created you. So you have his gene in you, simply means you are I am that I am, undefinable. So don't let anybody use label to Yoruba will say, "My coffee label, how would they say it?" Don't let anybody use label to get you carried away. You are undefined. You are simply God. I am that I am.
Thank you so much, Adetola. Thank you. I really thank God for the kind of wisdom He has given to you. One last
Okay.
question, and if you have any questions that you intend to ask Adetola or that you intend should be asked on this platform, you can simply drop them now, and then we'll ask them right away. Otherwise, after the question and answer sessions, we'll just end the stream. I want to ask you one final question, Adetola. You're on a journey now with God. There are some people who have never been on that journey before. They don't know where to start. They
So
don't know
I
how
can
to go about
to
it.
interrupt you. Are we still live? Are we still
Yeah,
live on this Rivers FM? We're still live, right?
yes, we
Okay,
are.
somebody said
Yes,
the
we are.
end
Yes.
abruptly, so I just wanted to be sure we're still live. Sorry to have interrupted you. Okay.
We are still
Okay,
live. Yeah.
good. Good one.
Yes, we are still live. Thank you for checking in though. So I was saying that like if you, like I was asking the other time, there are some people who have never been on the journey, of vulnerability, of discovery, of finding the true love, of finding that true essence of living. You are on that journey. How would you advise people who've never been there, who don't even know where to start? What should they do? How do they go about it?
Okay. I like this question. Just give me a minute. I'm trying to arrange some things here. This question has to go viral. This has to go viral. So give me a minute, please. Okay, give me a minute. Audience, I'm sorry. Okay, all right. So you asked about this journey with God. Okay, so I'm just going to say something, which is the fact that I can't. You are on that journey already. Let me say it that way. Your journey may take you through another part. Mine may take me through another part, but you are on that journey already. The Bible says that so there comes a time, no one will have to tell his neighbor that this is God, because I will write my laws in their heart. I personally believe that God is within all of us. God is in you. God is in me. And God is going to direct your journey to the exact place that you are meant to be part-time. All I'm just going to say is relax. Okay? Just relax. There is no, I won't say, oh, start the journey, oh, commence the journey. My God that I know, if I should talk about my own story, there was no particular time that I actually say, oh, I want to start this journey with God. No. It was more like God had been there. God that was there when I was in my mother's womb, and God that was there while I was in preschool. He was in the journey all along. And when it was time for me to take me to the path of love, he came through again. So I would not use my own journey to say how your journey will go. I will only say this, that open your mind, have an open mind, and you already have God in you. God is already within you. God is already leading the path. If there's any prayer that I pray, is to actually tell God, which is who is within me, that God, help me to know what love is. Help me to know what your love is. And you will agree with me that that's the same prayer that Apostle Paul prayed for the church in Ephesians. He didn't say, oh, you need to know the doctrines, the principles. He said, no. He said, I pray that you may come to know how deep, how wide the love of God is for you. That's all you really need to know. So God has been in your journey. God created you to start with. From the point of creation, He's already in your journey. But if you want to expand more, I know you will get there. I know that life will take you there. So I'm not in a hurry. I'm not going to hurry you up. I'm just going to say that if there's anything that is peculiar and that was particular for me, was actually saying, God, um, I want to know what your love is. And if you can ask, if that's the only prayer you pray, I think you've prayed the ultimate, the most important prayer that you can ever pray. After prayer of thanksgiving, let me know thy love. And God will, He will always, He's in you, He will reveal Himself to you in that way. So yes, that's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for that answer. God is always there. Just open up yourself to Him. So I'll just quickly have a look at our streaming platforms and see if there are any questions pending. If there is none, then I will just say a big thank you. Okay, so there's someone with a question here. So Mikun, or yeah, I hope I got the pronunciation of your name correctly. And if I don't, please, I apologize. Um, he or she said, "How can one stay true to their true self? How can one stay true to their selves amidst societal pressures and expectations?"
All right. It's hard. It's a very hard one. I think admitting the fact that it's very hard is the first place to start with. I think at some point you would have to just tell yourself that this is not high school. We are no longer in secondary school anymore. We are no longer in university. And I am now a separate being. The culture of school, the culture of being with your siblings, this culture actually preached, oh, you have to be like me to be able to join the set of people. It's a wrong societal cultural conditioning that makes you act like somebody else, that makes you want to be like Tola, that makes you want to be like Hakim. When you come out of that culture, the residual is still there. The way of thinking is still there. That's sorry. Oh, my glass finally fell off. So I have to be like this person. I have to be like that person. I think it's a constant reminder, constant feeding on materials that has to do with you being yourself. For me, I think one of the things that I fight every day, I still a battle for me, is how to stay true to myself, even in my own family. So what I do is I constantly feed on materials that is both that actually make me, that reinforces the fact of who I am to me. So the more you reinforce, the more you listen to things that talks about that, the more your focus is much more on that. Whatever you focus on expand. If you focus on what the society is saying, what will happen is that you keep feeling limitation. But when you redirect your focus
Mm,
to actually who you are, things that affirms you. Sometimes for me, the Bible affirms me. My special memory verse is Psalm 139 that talks about whatever I am, God is cool with it. So when God loves me, God is not segregating among his children like they did in high school, like our teachers and our parents do and still do, you know. So when you constantly feed on those material, you start getting, your mind start getting renewed. You see, the progress in life is not about, it's about knowledge. When knowledge gets to a point, when you get knowledgeable to a point, some way of life leaves you. Something like being pressurized leaves you. All of a sudden you find yourself that you're no longer the type who is concerned about what people think because you've constantly fed on materials that reaffirms who you are, how you have to stay true to yourself, stay true to your inner voice, and all of those things. The more you feed on that, the more you just it's a principle of you just find yourself moving away, just like when you became an adult, or let me say when you're 25 years old. Nobody had to tell you to stop doing some things you were doing at 20 years old. It just came natural. So when you feed on things that are actually defined, not things that rip you apart and tear you down, it helps. Secondly, I would say practicalize, at some point you will have to voice out when people constantly come against you and constantly attack you, and especially people that are close to you and constantly want to, you will have to stand your ground. You will have to set your boundaries. You have to say, set your boundaries politely. I know this, but this is me. This is how I like to think. This is my way of life. This is how I like to behave. And before you know, you find yourself not in the space where you have to impress. And I must confess that the reason why we want to please society is because of our societal conditioning to please our parents, to please everybody around us. So what we need right now at this phase of our life is to feed on materials that are not going to put us in bondage of that. And before you know, very soon you just wake up one
mm.
morning and say, Tola has changed. Tola doesn't think this way anymore. Tola is no longer pressurized by people anymore. So it's a gradual process. It's not a one-off that all of a sudden is just going to stop.
Thank you so much, Adetola. Mikun, I hope that really answers your question. And then, a few other questions, and then we round this off because we are, way
Yeah.
past time already. This question says, how can I navigate the complexity of multiple identities? And how can I silence the
Ooh.
noise?
Multiple identities. Okay. Thank you for that question. Like I said, while you were on Earth here, there will be a lot of paradox in your life. And that's one of the things you have to be comfortable with. There will be a lot of things, some part of your life is shaping out the way you want it. Some part of your life, is like this. There'll be a whole lot of issues, multiple things coming up. Now, I don't know what it feels like to have multiple identities, but I can only say one profound thing, which is of all these identities that you think, in fact, they are not identities, they are experiences. Like I said, your major identity, don't define yourself by your experiences. I'm experiencing a financial breakdown right now. Doesn't mean that I'm poor. I'm experiencing a depressive mood right now. Doesn't mean I am a depressed human being. Don't associate yourself with, don't identify as your experiences. Don't. Your real identity is you are God. You are a child. You are God. That's your real identity. Now, to maneuver those experiences, which I will not call identity, is to take from that position of power and to say that regardless of these experiences, these multiple experiences, I'm a child of God. That's what I believe. I'm created in the image of God. Now, the more you focus on the number one identity, the original identity, the more those experiences begin to take the shape you desire for them to take. So, Like I said from the beginning, you are not what you think you are. You are not what you feel you are. Your experiences are not you. The only thing that matters in anything I can define you as is you are God. You are God at any level, whatever experience. Believe that only. Don't believe you have series of identities. Now, whatever your journey is in life, you are still a child of God. So your focus should be on that, not on these experiences you're having.
Thank you so much. Adetola, I want to say a big thank you to you. I really learned a lot, and I mean, I'm grateful, for how you were able to take off your mask,
Hmm.
today, so that you could show us what God has shown you, and how God has brought you through the series of experiences, and to help you find out that true identity that I really wanted you to know. And I'm really glad because this would be an eye opener for people to also understand that it's not ideal and it's not God's original idea for all of us to wear mask, and to move on with that mask in every phase of our lives. Masks are given by society and based on our experiences. But God's real idea is for us to be naked and bare before Him, to be vulnerable and to be true. And that's why, God opposes every of these things, lying, and all of this is because He wants you to come, you know, very clean and honest and to need Him so that He can help. And I'm really, really, really grateful that you were able to like share with us, these truths. Thank you so much. God bless you tremendously. And I really hope that every one of us have learned, from joining today's session. Thank you really for your time. Thank you for participating. Thank you for encouraging the platform. God bless you so much. And we'll see you another time. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Aditola, you can say goodbye to
Well,
everyone
thank you so
yourself.
much.
All right. Thank you,
God
everyone.
bless you.